Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kastuba. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York, Kastuba Das, by my side. Welcome to the show. Welcome to Wisdom of the Sages retreat, and what a day it was. Satchidananda Maharaj came in with his crew. Those guys are on a tough schedule. They went to bed at 1 a.m., 1 p.m., what's after midnight? After a.m. and then drove up here, got up here by 9, and then just,
It was like 3 hours driving.
3 hours driving, and then they drove back late. And everybody wants to talk to Maharaj, so he can never get out on time yeah. You know what I've realized? I've crossed this threshold where I used to be able to just pound it out and go on tour and travel, and I'd go away for the weekend. I'd go to like Europe to teach a festival for a weekend, come back. That was like nothing. Now I'm just like, I got older. Something happened.
It's called the Saturn period, Raghunath.
It's the Saturn period. So I got the ring. Saturn period. It breaks you down, it slows you down, strips it away. Me and Kastuba entered Saturn. Seems like you've been Saturn for a while, though. You've always been moved at a slower pace.
I'm a year ahead of you in Saturn.
You're a year ahead. No, you've been about 40 years ahead of me.
You just moved. Saturn just affected. It was easy. Saturn. I'm more susceptible to Saturn than you are.
Okay.
Take like a really strong Saturn working on you for a while.
I got to get my Shani mantras out again. Whew. Where are we at here? We got a big day, and I got kids to get out to school. You know what? My son is his first Mridanga gig. He's going to the Jersey Shore because there's a yoga retreat with two of our others out there. The Prince, right? Bob Healy, the King of Hearts. I mean, I demoted him to Prince. The King of Hearts and Brandy Candy. We call her Brandy Candy because she gives the kids, right around 108, because she gives all the kids candy all the time. Call her Brandy Candy. So they're doing a Long Beach Island retreat, and Rocco and Sachi are going down there to play Mridanga and cartels. Sort of cool. They're going out to work, and that's their thing.
They don't need you anymore. They've moved on.
It's at that we're getting there. We're getting there. They don't need me. The little guy, the little one still needs me. Right? Right.
We got a podcast to do today.
Okay, let's do it. I'm ready.
Should we do the announcements, Mara?
Miss Mara, where is she? Miss Mara from Shravanam Scarves.
We have Bhakti recovery group meetings today at 12:30 and 1 o'clock. And Josh Kane is offering an asana class for our Patreon members at 10:30 a.m. today. And there's no show this Sunday.
No show this Sunday, but live questions tomorrow. All the people at the retreat are going to personally come up, grab the mic, and ask a question. And we're looking forward to that. It's tomorrow at 8 a.m. Okay. Give me the nuggets, sir. What do you got? Why don't you read it today?
We got a nugget today from William Blake. And Do you know much about William Blake?
He was a very deep thinker.
Yes. He was a poet. He was he's respected as, here we go, English poet, painter, and printmaker, largely unrecognized during his life. Blake is now considered a seminal figure in the history of the poetry and visual arts of the Romantic Age. So he wrote a lot of amazing. This quote that we're going to read today is related to the quote that we read yesterday. Remember the quote from yesterday? Anything about it?
Yesterday was a very long day.
It was talking about the doors of perception. There's the unknown, and then there's the known, and in between there's the doors of perception. That was Aldous Huxley. And then Huxley, in that book, he quoted William Blake, which is today's quote. And both of these quotes are where the band The Doors got their name. Little side, what do you call that? Little
Side nugget. Yeah. Little nugget of the nugget.
little trivia. Okay, ready for today's? It said that, just a little background, more background from William Blake, which kind of relates to the nugget. Although Blake was considered mad by contemporaries for his idiosyncratic views, he came to be highly regarded by later critics and readers for his expressiveness and creativity, and for the philosophical and mystical undercurrents within his work.
He was considered mad. I wonder what were some of his views.
Oh, I had to read about it. But I think, he had these mystic ideas. We can feel a little bit of that through this quote.
Sure.
Okay. This is what he says. This is from The Marriage of Heaven and Hell. He writes, if the doors of perception were cleansed. Now, really, I think lens would have been better.
Doors of perception were cleansed. Okay. I like the window. I think the window.
Or the lenses. Yeah, it's kind of a mixed metaphor.
Did they have windows then?
Of course, they had windows then.
When was the window?
Yeah, that's. Thank you.
Called out by Martine.
For squirrely. If the doors of perception, maybe we ought to leave you unmuted every day. And if he squirrels, you just let him know. If the doors of perception were cleansed, everything would appear to man as it is, infinite. For man has closed himself up till he sees all things through narrow chinks of his cavern.
Yeah, I could see how that would blow people's minds. Like, what's this guy talking about? Right?
We're not. Yeah. Let me get started.
You started.
We're reading chapters that are like really wild sounding.
Right.
Okay, we're reading chapters that sound like we're not even getting into all the descriptions, but it even describes, we touched on it yesterday, like there's these planets that are hundreds of millions of miles away, and in those planets people live much longer lifetimes, and they have bodies that are beautiful and powerful. They don't experience all of the problems that our bodies have here for the most part. There are massive trees that are like thousands of miles high that have huge fruits that crash down, and then the juice from those fruits create lakes, and these are like the playgrounds of these higher living beings to just enjoy, like pleasures that are hard for us to even imagine. And then later we're going to hear about the other side, the other side,
the darker side. Yeah, so and yesterday we prefaced this whole thing with, if you were to read this, if you were to say, oh, I'm going to buy a book on Eastern spirituality, and you open it up and you start reading about these descriptions of higher planets, it's so unbelievable sounding. So I think that it's important to, like, the way you package this stuff is, especially if you explain this to a newer person, is we have to understand, like we used this analogy yesterday, like we live under a desk, we live under a table, and we're trying to speculate about the sky.
Or Blake would say in a cavern.
Or in a cavern. And so it brings us to this state where you can enter into new paradigms of reality. What do I know? When you get to that place where you realize I don't know everything. That's the very liberating place, because we walk around this world either I know this, or I'm about to figure it out, or someone's figured it out and I'm about to figure it out, or we can figure this out. There are certain things you just can't figure out. Why? They're way beyond our perception. In the same way, the Yeti mug is it's a different. The ant cannot figure out what this is. He might even be climbing on it. You might be right on top of that mug and not realize it. So the next question might be, well, what is right in front of me? What am I climbing on that is way beyond my perception? When you start to think like this, then you read these stories, because the Bhagavatam will tell you when it's an analogy. But for the most part, these Vedic literatures, they speak of a reality. It's just a reality way beyond your perception. And so people, scholars, academics, they go into these old books of India and they come in with this, this show me state. The show, we're from Mississippi, Missouri, and this is the show me. So we're from Missouri, and I got to see it to believe it. Well, you know what? Then you're not going to believe anything. You're going to read this book and it's like, oh, this is a mythological book. And the sages say it's not. It's just way beyond your perception. There's other things that are out there. And now, by Guru's mercy, you're getting a glimpse into another realm. Buckle up.
Yeah. It's in one sense, what's being proposed isn't such a crazy idea. It's like, okay, look at the world that you're living in right now. You see that there's pleasure and you see that there's pain. And then it's, in one sense, all it's saying is that there are other places where there's more pleasure and there are other places where there's more pain. Yeah. And okay, well, what would use your imagination? What would that look like? And
sure,
you just kind of increase the volume on each direction.
What would it look on? I mean, we do it with the human species. We cause a great Holocaust. We cause great suffering with human species. And we do that on a smaller level. Like, oh my God, there's a hornet's nest. Let's, some people would torch a hornet's nest, killing every hornet in there. They don't think twice about it, spraying a hornet's nest. That's like a Holocaust of hornets, right? Then it's happening on cosmic levels that are beyond our perception, So it just goes in concentric circles like a Fibonacci spiral, bigger and bigger and bigger, in pain. And then also pleasures. There's pleasures for us in this world. Because Stu very often puts his arm around me and just says, you mean so much to me. And I was like, oh, thank you. You mean so much to me. It's just what we do sometimes. Is that a squirrel? Privately. No, it's part of the story. Does that very, very privately. Sometimes he offers me a sauna. Hey, let's go in the sauna together.
Martine?
All right, no, it's not a squirrel. It's on point. So that happens on a human level, but sometimes you see a little affection with like two fish in the fish tank or two fish in the pond. There's just affectionate, or two birds. There's affection on the smaller level. And then on a grander level, there's affection, and a celestial level, there's affection, there's joy, and there's pleasure. And it's all amplified or made tiny. And I'm sure it's happening in the billions of bacteria. Right? There's bacteria like, I love you, in a bacteria sort of love. And then there's bacteria like, I'm going to kick your ass.
This next one's called bacteria love. 1, 2, 3, 4.
My point is there is like World War III going on in my,
There's a universe in there.
In my gut.
Blake got into that too, right? Wasn't he the one that wrote I think his most famous poem was like, wasn't it like you see a universe in a grain of sand and all that, right?
That's like me. I say that.
Sorry, Blake. Ruggenau said it after you. But one other point I want to make. So he's saying that man has closed himself up till he sees things through these narrow chinks in the cavern that he created himself. So we could consider, well, what is my cavern? Like, what is it built of? How have I made it? What, and you could say, it could be religion. It could, like, I will only accept these certain thoughts as they've been presented to me in my narrow religious sect. Sure. Or it could be science. Oh, well, science, they're smarter than me. They figured things out, and whatever they say must be true. It could come in so many different, that limitation of our imagination, or the limitation of what we accept could be possible, can come in many different ways. Bhagavatam is just saying, like, hey, let's just crack this open a little bit. Let's show you something. Think about it. But the thing about Bhagavatam is, it's not a book. It's relating a description of the universe, and it's not for the purpose of astronomers. It's not for the purpose. Its purpose isn't exactly to know that. It's what we can know through that. In other words, like, as we're hearing about the heavens, we're hearing about the different people there and how they relate to Vishnu, or how they relate to Krishna. And so when I see how they relate to Krishna, it makes me think about how I relate to Krishna. That's always going to be the theme. So although it's giving this cosmology, it's not a book written for the purpose of cosmology. It's a book written for the purpose of understanding who is Krishna, who am I, what am I doing here.
Although there are Vedic books that teach of cosmology, this is a whole different type of cosmology. And it's been explained to me that, like a bug, we're looking up. So we're looking up at the celestial bodies, and the Bhagavatam is from the vantage point of the demigods looking down. It's really interesting. And when you look at it like that, you're like, it's going to be completely different.
No, that reminds me of is, in Grand Central Station, if you look up at the ceiling, there's this massive depiction of the astrological kind of, but then people looked at it and said, actually, the whole thing's backwards. You did this massive thing, and you got it entirely backwards. And then their answer was, no, well, this is it from the perspective of God, looking at it from the other direction.
That's magnificent, isn't it? Who did it? Google that, Mayor. Grand Central Station, ceiling, art. Thank you. Yeah, it's good. Everybody good? You good? Got a whole living room full of people. It's a really weird day for me. It's like I got a living room full of people. Got the kids sleeping upstairs. They're about to get off school. I'm about to shoo you guys all out of the house in a moment. Like, show's over. Get out. Gonna break into mom mode. Okay. And now I'm on a podcast. My worlds are colliding. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tatojayam madhiraya. Before reciting our Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances to the Supreme Lord, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, Srila Vyasadeva, the author,
Narayan Rishi,
and Narayan Rishi, the supermost human beings. Nasta prayeshu badreshu nityam bhagavat sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes in the Bhagavatam, and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart will become eradicated, and loving service to the Supreme Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, will be established as an irrevocable fact. Om Jnana Tamarandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Madatam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance. My teachers are opening my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my obeisances at their lotus feet. That was almost like at a show where you hand the mic out to someone. I said, Narayan. I put out the mic and everyone went, Narayan. You ever like sing? Ever get somebody to hand a mic to you and you're like, and sing a song?
I suppose I did.
Yeah. My famous one was Annabelle from Bow Wow Wow. You remember that one? It's a relevant squirrel, right? It's very relevant.
To what?
Narayan. Relevant to Narayan. I handed out the mic about Narayan, and you guys couldn't hear that. What happened was I handed out when I did the English translation, that part Narayan, I stopped, I put out the microphone, everyone went, Narayan. It was really cool. Okay. All right, this is interesting. The ceiling, it shows the ceiling as it was in 1914, shortly after the terminal opened. Above, Ares' head is depicted. Mara, what kind of... Your head's in your knitting. Okay. The mural was executed in 1913 by James Monroe Hewlett and Charles Basing of Hewlett Basing Studio. They were assisted in the design. Okay. It's boring. No, you are hopeless. I'm
Okay, let's get into this, Raghunath. We're going to get into Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 17. You're going to enjoy this, Raghunath.
Oh, this is a good one. The Descent of the Ganga. This is very interesting.
You don't have to read it because, I mean, you can pull it up, I suppose, but we're going to be summarizing it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So what we're going to hear about, we heard about the description of Jambudweep. Now we're going to hear about how it was kind of like quite frankly, because it's not a book written specifically for the purpose of cosmology. When you get the cosmological descriptions, they're not simple to figure out. And as a matter of fact, as we speak, there's a massive temple in Mayapur in West Bengal that's meant to represent this, right? And different followers of Bhagavatam are trying to decipher how that universe should be best represented in this. Right? So it's
a Vedic planetarium.
There's a planetarium, and then there's a planetarium on there's 3 domes, right? So one dome is over the Nrsingadev temple. Then there's the massive dome, which is over the main temple, which is the temple of Radha Madhava, Radha and Krishna, and the 8 gopis. And you also have the Panchatattva, Lord Sri Chaitanya and his 4 associates there. And then there's another dome, which is actually a planetarium, and where different kind of educational kind of shows can go on. But in the massive dome, hanging down the center of it is like it's called a mobile or a mobile hanging that's going to show the different levels, for the material world up to the different stages of the planetary system, going higher, 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 until you finally get to Radha and Krishna in Goloka Vrindavan on the top. And you can go up the different, there's different balconies, big, huge, wide balconies that you can go up in.
Like you're climbing the different planetary systems, because the planetary systems, they say, are like discs that are stacked upon each other. So we're in a disc right now, a mandala, and there's many, many, many. This universe is many, many, many earthly type planets. And we seem like, if you were to look from above, it looked like that you see the top of the earth, and it almost looked like a bunch of different islands. So we're on Jambudweep.
And so then it'll climb higher and higher, but they're still trying to figure out exactly how there's from what I believe, there's 2 camps.
Yeah, it's hard to recreate the universe, especially the metaphysical universe.
But again, the point here is not to map out the universe exactly, but it's to understand, as we're going to hear how the celestial Ganges flows and how it's flowing from the feet of Lord Vishnu. And that's significant. And how it's kind of like a gift, to the universe, that here's this kind of flow of water that on all these different planetary levels, people can benefit from it. People can benefit from that blessing that's coming straight from the feet of Lord Vishnu. So I'll just read a little bit of my summary of this here. It says there's this flow of water that's blessed by Lord Vishnu that passes through the universe. It's a gift to the universe. And this is text 1 reads like this. It says, every living being can immediately purify their mind of material contamination, material programming, right? By touching the transcendental water of the Ganges, yet its waters remain ever pure.
If you've been to the Ganges, and generally when we go on pilgrimage, we always stop at the Ganges. And anyone who's been there, I'm looking at Katie right now. She's been there with me, and Mara, and it's just right, and Snooky G. It's like, and Katie, it's one of these places where it's hard to even explain. You know, it was a great point in Tom's film, Something Divine, which is coming out. There's this point of the film that stirred me more than any point, and it's we're at Vashista Guha, Vashista's cave on the banks of the Ganga. And there was like nothing around there. You just see forests and maybe a walking bridge in the distance and these high Himalayan peaks. And everybody's in the Ganga bawling. And it's as if it's having this cathartic release in the same way you would heat butter and the impurities arise. And right, Stephanie? You can't even explain it, but it's still there. It's still there. The potency of the Ganga is still there. And pilgrims from all over will bathe in these sacred places. They'll climb to Himalayan peaks and go to Gangotri. Or they'll go into like major cities like Calcutta to bathe in the Ganga. They like have it. It's woven into the DNA of the Bhakta that this is not ordinary. And it's not. Kostuba, do you have a good Ganga story for us?
I mean, there's so many. And the last time I went to Mayapur, where the Ganga flows, every single day I bathed. Tara and I would go there. I'm really looking forward to next year when we take a whole group there. And we can go bathe in the Ganga. Maybe we can do it every day. Maybe that we're taking people. I think we should try to do it every day if we can. And there's this quaint little simple shack of a Ganga temple right there. And we can do, in the sweet priest there, we can do kirtan there, every day. But, I remember not this last time, but the time before when I went to Mayapur and, then I was leaving after a 2-month trip to India, when you get on the plane to return home, you have all of these feelings, all these thoughts and emotions, and you're looking back on the time that you spent there and how it may have changed you and what you're stepping into. You're going through all that. And it was nighttime, and as the plane's, taking off and then rising above Calcutta, you're looking down on Calcutta, this massive city, and just all the lights of the city, and you can see this river cutting through it. And you're like, that's the Ganga. Like there's the Ganga. And because you have this new perspective, like this high up in the air perspective, you just can't help but, for a devotee, you feel a bit of a flood of appreciation, a flood of joy, a flood of peace, in a sense, just to see that river that you've read so much about. Even if we set aside all the celestial descriptions, just historically, the saints, the not the thousands, not the millions, but it probably over its billions of years has bathed in this river, with faith, with deep faith.
Right down to the Beatles. The Beatles went there. But our message board is lighting up with, Brittany Payne, House of Payne, and Tomas. But they've all had like impressive experiences there. But, and when bhaktas or people practicing bhakti, they glorify the Ganges with so many, beautiful statements and flowery words. Academics always step in. Well, the Ganges is like, it extracts a lot of herbs from the mountains, and therefore it's a very healing waters. And they'll say, and it nourishes the Gangatic plains, and it nourishes all the people, but it's not that. It is that. And yes, they do extract rare herbs from the Himalayas after the monsoon season, and that's why the water is very healthy. But it's something much more. The water can never be contaminated according to the Vedas. Why? Because it actually flows from an entirely another realm. And in the same way we have a shushumna, if you practice yoga and pranayama, there's a shushumna of the body. There's a shushumna of the universe. Why? Because everything in the micro is there in the macro as well. And the super macro. And the Ganges is descending. And the interesting thing about the Ganga is it lands on all the planets. It comes down, descends through all the planets. And after it goes to Earth, guess where the Ganga goes? It goes to the lower planets. Yeah.
So that's what this whole chapter is about.
Descent to the Ganga, and it gives mercy. There's always some type of mercy for everybody.
So again, if we step back a little bit and look at the Bhagavatam, step out of this chapter and look at the entire thing, and then look at the Bhagavatam in relation, one more step back and look at the Bhagavatam in relation to all the Vedic literature, we're seeing, okay, well, this is the book where Vyasadeva is clarifying everything. He's clarifying the same point again and again, that bhakti is the conclusion of yoga, that Krishna is the focus of bhakti. And so he's illustrating in another way by saying, because Vishnu is the expansion of Krishna, because the Ganga is coming from his feet, therefore we need to talk about it. If his mercy flows through the entire universe, it splits up, it breaks into different branches, and it's reaching all the different planets within the universe. It's a special benediction. And it's appreciated. Who is it appreciated by? We're going to hear who it's appreciated by. Next text, we hear about Dhruva. So Dhruva, we read earlier in the 4th canto, received the special blessings. He pleased and received special, following the instructions of Narada, he pleased Lord Vishnu, and he was given his material desire that he had going into his practice, which he later he later regretted when he saw Lord Vishnu. Why was I wanting material thing? I wanted this great kingdom greater than my father. What was I thinking? I just want to serve you. But Lord Vishnu said, you get the service, you also get your material desire fulfilled. And his desires fulfilled beyond what he had imagined. He got placed in the highest planet in the universe, which is the pole star. The entire universe is revolving around this. So here Vyasadeva is saying the person in the highest point in the universe, he goes to the Ganges River because he appreciates Krishna. And not only that, this is the effect that it has on him. So text 2 says, Dhruva Maharaj, situated on his own planet, to this very day, accepts the water on his head, accepts that water on his head with great devotion. And now he's going to point to what devotion looks like and where it leads, where bhakti takes you. Because he constantly thinks of Krishna very devoutly within the core of his heart, he is overcome with ecstatic ecstasy. Tears flow from his half-opened eyes, and eruptions appear on his entire body.
I'm curious here. We got a whole living room of people here. And, there's 2 ways we could hear these verses. We could hear it the way of, it's a sacred river. It extracts the herbs and heals. It's got healing herbs. It, waters the water gives the substance and the sustenance of all the beings living there. Basmati rice from Uttarakhand is like very, very good quality rice. The people need that to nourish their bodies. It's a sacred river. But, all rivers are sacred. That's a very reasonable thing to say. Curious. And then I'm just curious. And then there's another group of people who are like, it emanates from the feet of Lord Vishnu. It flows to the lower planets. It purifies every center. Everybody can wash their sins in the Ganga. It is always pure. It's descending from the higher planets. I'd like a show of hands.
How deep is your faith?
No, I'm just curious because it's reasonable. It's reasonable. How many believe like it's sacred, but I don't know if it flew from there? How many people just think it's sacred, but okay, yeah, okay. Well, Stephanie's got one of these like I don't know the emoji. I don't know emoji. I use that one all the time. Okay, all right. So we got a handful. How many people like it flows from the feet of Lord Vishnu? How many people? Okay. All right. So it's sort of like 50-50. That's very, very reasonable. Yeah. Well, that's and Braja. Why not sort of? No, I think why not is like, I don't know myself. I've been practicing bhakti for years. I love bathing in the Ganga. I chant prayers to the Ganga. I worship the Ganga, right? I have all my students worship the Ganga. But I don't know if it flows from the feet of Lord Vishnu. No. Number one is
number one is it's sacred, but I don't even care about Vishnu. I don't even.
Right. I think number 2 is like it's why not? It could, and I accept that it could. But I don't know because I don't know a lot of things. So I don't think why not is. It's just a river like all beautiful rivers. It's
another level.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, you got that figured out.
It goes with the theme of perception.
It's saying I'm in the cavern or that Blake spoke about. I have just my little narrow view through it, so I don't know what's beyond that view. It's an honest perspective, honest statement. All right. So now we heard that Dhruva Maharaj, he's bathing in that water to this day. And that with his level of faith, he experiences devotional ecstasies, right? He's experiencing this very elevated level of bhakti. Okay. Not only him, not only Dhruva, the 7 great sages, they also honor this water because it comes from the feet of Lord Vishnu. So text 3 says, Marichi, Vashishta, Atri, and so on, the 7 great sages, reside on the planets beneath Dhruvaloka, beneath the pole star. They probably each have their own planet, right?
Is that Siddha Loka? It might be Siddha Loka,
I'm not sure.
which is a universe of perfected beings.
Wouldn't it be so cool when they get this mobile done and you can go up and say, okay, there's Atri, there's Marichi, they're doing their meditation. They got
spinning around.
spinning around.
I wonder what else they do. Do they just they don't just sit there?
I think they speak about Krishna, with their deep realizations, kind of their thing. So in any case, they bathe in the Ganges. We know that. Well aware of the influence of the water of the Ganges, to this day, they keep Ganges water on the tufts of hair on their heads. They have concluded that this is the ultimate wealth, the perfection of all austerities, and the best means of prosecuting transcendental life. Having obtained uninterrupted devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that's what they're doing. They neglect all other beneficial processes like religion, economic development, sense gratification, and even merging into the Supreme. Just as Gyan, and again, here's Vyasadeva clarifying this point. Just as Gyanis, who think I want to achieve moksha through renunciation, just as Gyanis think that merging into the existence of the Lord is the highest truth, these 7 exalted personalities accept devotional service as the perfection of life. It's not a step up to merging into the oneness. It's the highest step. Vyasadeva wants you to understand that because you may have misunderstood that when you read his Upanishads or something like that.
These were the Santa Rishis, the 7 sons of Brahma.
Okay. Then we follow the path of the celestial Ganges River. It comes down, it splits up, it's going into the different divisions in the universe of the different varshas.
Has it split up, Mara? Pretty good. Lands on Shiva's head.
I'm not sure if that division.
We're not at Shiva's head yet.
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. It seems it would seem to. I'm not sure. It may be that that's the earthly level where Shiva's catches it on his head. I'm not sure. Okay, the water continues to fall through the heavens where the residents enjoy worldly pleasures. And then there's a description of those worldly pleasures over a course of verses. You want to hear about it?
Yeah.
Will you get distracted?
By worldly pleasures, I might.
Will you forget all about Bhakti and say, that's my goal?
I won't forget about Bhakti, but I'm interested in worldly pleasures.
Okay, here goes. Human beings live 10,000 years according to earthly calculations.
Yeah. No, I'm not attracted to that. I was like, even at my age, I was
back
like,
and forth sounds like.
even at this age, I was like, you know what? I've done my time here.
Okay. All the inhabitants are almost like demigods.
So like demigods, that's very interesting.
They have the bodily strength of 10,000 elephants.
Interesting.
Indeed, their bodies are as sturdy as thunderbolts.
All right. Maybe.
Getting better. The youthful duration of their lives is very pleasing, and both men and women enjoy sexual union with great pleasure for a long time.
Think about that one.
After years of sensual pleasure, when the balance of 1 year of life remains, the wife conceives a child.
Wait, what happens? Say that again.
In other words, they have sex without responsibility. It's not like there's consequences like, hey, if we have sex, we're gonna have the responsibility of raising a child. No, they go on for thousands of years having sex, and then when they're about to pass on, they reproduce, and even the child kind of grows to maturity instantly. It's like pleasure without all the worries. Here, it's like with every ounce of pleasure comes anxiety and problems. There, it's like pleasure without problems.
Okay, that's better option than what we got going here.
Okay. Thus, the standard of pleasure for the residents of these heavenly regions is exactly like that of the human beings who lived in the Treta Yuga.
So that was like it. That was Earth and Treta Yuga. Interesting. Yeah.
In each of those tracts of land, there are many gardens filled with flowers and fruits according to the season, and there are beautifully decorated hermitages as well.
Must be charming.
Between the great mountains demarcating the borders of those lands lie enormous lakes with clear water filled with newly grown lotus flowers, aquatic birds such as swans, ducks, water chickens,
Water chickens.
and cranes become greatly excited by the fragrance of the lotus flowers, and the charming sound of bumblebees fills the air.
Okay. Got that going here.
The inhabitants of those lands are important leaders among the demigods. They enjoy life in the gardens alongside the lakes. In this pleasing situation, the wives of the demigods smile playfully at their husbands and look upon them, and their husbands look upon them full of desire. In this way, all the residents of the 8 heavenly varshas enjoy, attracted by the activities of the opposite sex.
Okay, I could see that. You know, I tell you, when you go to the Himalayas today, you still feel like this is the land of the gods. Like the gods reside here still. Let's
I haven't gone that far up. You know, I've only gone to
do
Rishikesh.
it. Let's do it. Let's get some Royal Enfield motorcycles and head up to Yamunotri.
Okay, so now we've been given a picture of the Ganges. Dhruva has it on his head. He's got devotional ecstasies. The 7 great sages. These are people whom the Vedas are spoke through. They're accepting that devotional service to Lord Vishnu is the highest thing, and they're bathing in that water, and then the water's coming down through the heavens, and you know, past all these. This is basically the picture of good karma. This is what good karma looks like, you know, in its kind of full manifestation. This kind of heavenly enjoyment for thousands and thousands of years. Now, text 14 mentions it says to show his anugraha, to show his kindness to his devotees. In each of these tracts of land, they're called varshas, each of these universal divisions, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, known as Narayan, expands himself in his quadruple principles of Vasudeva, Sankarshana, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha. So Lord Vishnu appears in new ways, you could say, in these different tracts of land. And then we've heard about Dhruva. We've heard about the 7 great rishis. And now we hear about, by mentioning this figure, it's another way in highlighting this figure, because not only Dhruva was mentioned, the Santa Rishis were mentioned, but not only is this figure going to be mentioned, but we're going to hear the prayers from this at length. We're going to hear prayers from this next figure. And this next figure, like, is so important because, like, for instance, when you use the term Ishwara, which means the controller, and which is generally indicated to me like the supreme controller, historically, through these literatures and through history, it's one of 2 people that people are going to think of when you say that. It's either Lord Vishnu or
Shankara.
Lord Shiva. And so who's supreme? There are texts that you could read that might really leave you thinking Shiva's number 1. Like Shiva, it's all coming from Shiva. He's the source of all existence. This is another way in the Bhagavatam where again and again and again, Vyasadeva is saying, no, Lord Shiva, he's a worshiper of Lord Vishnu. And he's bathing in the water that comes from Lord Vishnu's feet. He's offering his prayers to Lord Vishnu. So the Ganges, so again, like this, he's using, the author is using this description of the descent of the Ganges, not so much for cosmological calculations, but to help us understand who we are, who Krishna is, and how to relate. So now it comes, the Ganges reaches Ilavrita Varsha, the abode of Lord Shiva. And then we hear the prayers of Lord Shiva from text 17 to 24. That's the rest of the chapter. We could start reading.
Yeah, let's read some of the prayers of Lord Shiva. Yes. Okay, this is text 17. The most powerful Lord Shiva says, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you in your expansion as Lord Shankarshan. Okay, sorry. This is text 16 now. In Ilavrita Varsh, Lord Shiva is always encircled by 10 billion maidservants or maidservants of Goddess Durga, who minister to him. The quadruple expansion of the Supreme Lord is composed of Vasudev, Pradyumna, Aniruddha, and Shankarshan. Shankarshan is the fourth expansion. It is certainly transcendental, but because his activities of destruction in the material world are in the mode of ignorance, he is known as Tamasi, the Lord's form in the mode of ignorance. Lord Shiva knows that Shankarshan is the original cause of his own existence, and thus he always meditates upon him in trance by chanting the following mantra. Okay, this is the mantra. O Personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisance unto you in your expansion as Lord Shankarshan. You are the reservoir of all transcendental qualities. Although you are unlimited, you remain unmanifest to the non-devotees. I think it's interesting how we're chanting mantras. Shiva himself is also chanting mantras. Oh my.
You know, earlier in the fourth canto, remember, it was coming down in the same line. We had the Prachetas. They wanted to meditate because they knew in the future they had to take up important government responsibility. They said, let's set aside some time. Let's go out into nature. Let's go meditate. We're going to go underwater because they had that power to do that. But as they get to the water, Lord Shiva comes out of the water with all his associates and sits down and gives them mantras, right?
Some water chickens with them.
I don't know if there may have been water chickens.
Can't stop thinking of water chickens. Okay.
Where are they on the pecking order?
Are they higher than the land chickens or lower than the land? Okay. 18. Oh, Lord, you are the only worshipable person, for you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the reservoir of all opulences. Your secure lotus feet are the only source of protection for all your devotees, whom you satisfy by manifesting yourself in various forms. Oh, my Lord, you deliver your devotees from the clutches of material existence. Non-devotees, however, remain entangled in material existence by your will. Kindly accept me as your eternal servant. We cannot control the force of our anger. Therefore, we look at material things. We cannot avoid feeling attraction or repulsion for them. But the Supreme Lord is never affected in this way. Although he glances over the material world for the purpose of creating, maintaining, and destroying it, he's not affected even to the slightest degree. Therefore, one who desires to conquer the force of the senses must take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. Then he'll be victorious.
Even Lord Shiva, when Lord Shiva is the god of destruction. At the end, when the time comes, he becomes angry. It just tears everything apart, right? So he's saying, but Vishnu never, right? Like, and so through, that's on a kind of a macro thing, but on our micro level, we can see, okay, through meditation on him, I can let go of anger.
For persons with impure vision, this text 20, the Supreme Lord's eyes appear like those of somebody who indiscriminately drinks intoxicating beverages. Thus bewildered, such intelligent persons unintelligent persons become angry at the Supreme Lord, and due to their angry mood, the Lord himself appears angry and very fearful. However, this is an illusion. When the wives of the serpent demon were agitated by the touch of the Lord's lotus feet, due to shyness, they could proceed no further in their worship of him. Yet the Lord remained unagitated by their touch, for he is equipoised in all circumstances. Therefore, who will not worship this Supreme Personality? You want to explain that?
It's actually, I tried to figure it out, and I had a little trouble, but it's saying that the wives, this is referring to a Leela that we're going to hear in the 10th canto, where there's in the Yamuna River, this serpent, Kaliya, multi-headed serpent. It's just poisoning everything. And little boy Krishna jumps from a branch of a tree, says, I'll take care of this, jumps into the water and begins to fight with this serpent, which quickly kind of gets him all wrapped up, and it looks like it's all over for Krishna. And all the residents of Vrindavan are watching from the riverbank. And there's so much on many levels you could analyze this Leela and what's being. The deeper messages have to do with the feelings in their hearts and the varieties of feelings that they have as they're observing him. And then he slips out, and he gets on top of Kalia, and he's doing a dance on his heads, but with each stomp, boom, 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 the head's getting down. He's kind of beating down the serpent until it kind of surrenders. And then the many wives of those serpents come from the water. Now, what their bodies were, I mean, I think they're like humanoid in some form, right?
They were sort of like humanoid nagas.
Yeah. And maybe they're shapeshifters. I don't know.
Probably shapeshifters.
But in any case, you asked me to explain this.
We're playing bridesmaids right now with a microphone.
Yeah. So it's saying here that due to shyness, they could proceed no further in their worship of him. Yet the Lord remained unagitated by their touch, for he is equipoised in all circumstances. I looked up what Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur wrote about this and how it was translated and what he explained. It seems like they knew that although we're married to him, we're captivated by you. And you know our hearts, and you know that, and something that made them feel some kind of shyness or some kind of hesitancy in their worship of him. So that's, I may be off, but that's the best I could kind of pick up from.
That's good. Okay, I'm wrapping this up now. Oh, it's time. It's time. We got to go because.
Is that the way we read Bhakti? Okay, we're gonna wrap.
We're gonna wrap it up. Okay.
All right, I got some takeaways this morning. I don't know everything is liberating.
I don't know everything is liberating.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. Commas are
The
important.
mantra, I don't know everything is
There we go.
liberating.
There we go.
Parentheses would help with that.
Parentheses also help.
Quotation marks. Quotation marks. Yeah. What is right in front of me that I can't perceive?
What is right here? I'm like that bug.
Bhagavatam cracks open our cavern.
Hare Krishna.
The potency of the Ganga is still there.
It's still there. It's there.
Beware the distractions of heavenly pleasures.
Mhm.
Take shelter of the Lord to conquer the senses.
Yep.
And
Beware of water chickens.
beware of water chickens and bacteria love.
Bacteria love. Yes. All right, everybody, we're doing it. This is how we do it here. It's a Wisdom of the Sages immersion. Look at everybody. Look at them. Look into the camera. Look into their eyes. Thanks, everybody, for joining us for our annual Wisdom of the Sages retreat in Super Soul Farm. We're going to do another one in autumn, too. Our autumn retreat. Looking forward to Q&A day tomorrow, 8 a.m. See you over there. It's a bunch of live people asking questions. Oh, my God. Someone pulled up a picture of a water chicken. They're real. Aw, thanks again for the best way to start the day. This says Timothy Tucker. Thank you. We need maybe the water chicken should be our animal. You know how every state has their state bird, their state flower. Maybe our show bird should be the water chicken. Okay, guys, we're going to end early. We like to talk, but it's a school day. I got to get these kids out of here. It's a beautiful day for a beautiful day. Let the Govardhan dust fall on your head. Let the magic continue to flow. Mwah.